Hi, my name is Merlin Jones. I'm with Hix Farm Brewery. Welcome in. We're in the middle of construction right now as we're expanding from our 2-barrel system to our 15-barrel system. What you can see here are our 2-barrel fermenters. These are 62 gallons apiece. We don't get to quite fill those up all the way, but in general, we're going to get about 9 of those guys every single time that we brew. If you want to come on over this way, I've got a brand new wall there. And right here is our brew stand. We've got our hot liquor tank, our mash tun, and our kettle. And this is where we make the magic happen. So the business name is Hix Farm Brewery. That's based on the actual Hix Farm located out in Jackson County. The family wanted to have a way of sustaining their old farm. They live out, it's a husband and wife couple. They're currently living out in Colorado. What they're hoping to do is have a way of putting a little bit of money into this few hundred acres they've had since before Tennessee was a state, and kind of keeping up this family legacy. Their idea was to have a hop field, and they decided, well, if we're going to have a hop field, we might as well have a brewery. So right now we have about 500 to 600 hop plants out there, depending on how well they're doing. And we're hoping to bring back some old Tennessee hops, as well as some new varieties that are not tried and true here. A little while ago, there was a blight that took out most of the hop fields in Tennessee. The farmers didn't really want to bring the crops back, so everyone switched from hops to other cash crops. There's a few other breweries we, I think, are the first ones that started bringing hops back to Tennessee, and now there's a little bit more of a motion to start getting local hops to come in. That was the idea of starting Hix Farm Brewery, is a way of continuing on this farm, putting a little bit of money into it. Wherever you have breweries, you have happy cows. So all of our grain will go to different local farmers, be they chicken farmers, hog farmers, goat farmers, cow farmers. We take away some of the caloric value, but in general we've had it tested, and we have huge amounts of protein and minerals left over. So it's really, really good for all the animals. So it's happy farmers, they don't have to pay for the grain. We've already used it, it's just a byproduct. So that's kind of a way of keeping things out of landfills and keeping the local animal population a little happier and trying to help out farmers. The brewery started out because Cookeville's become a lot more agreeable to having this kind of an industry come in. And so we hopped on right when the other breweries came into town. And so far, Cookeville's been treating us really well. We like to keep things farm to glass. We like to keep things very, very local. You get you are forced in this industry to buy from a lot of large companies, especially when it comes to hops and when it comes to malting. Those are very large operations that you really need to consider before just jumping into. So we still buy outside for a lot of these things, but then it's very important to make choices about where you're getting what ingredients you can, and trying to decide where you're spending your money and making the choice to keep money within a certain area and support smaller farms that may not be able to compete on price and therefore aren't as attractive in that way. So in much of the same way of getting our ingredients local, that's what we're about, is going down to local farmers, getting ingredients, asking them to grow ingredients for us, making the effort to find the people who can supply you, who are not the big box store brands, getting to know people very well, visiting farms, and really just reaching out to community, giving to them and getting back as well. We've reached out to the roastery that's just opened up. He's been supplying our coffee since we've began. So even before he had a storefront, we work with a few different farmers around the area for different ingredients, and it's really just a matter of having a very conscious choice. And I like that it's a very new experience as far as bringing this from the floor to what it is now. I had some experience already in managing a bar in Cookeville, and being able to see something grow like this and being part of an industry that's growing in a town definitely has a lot of frustrations to it, but at the same time it's very rewarding just in kind of being on that ground floor and seeing how it develops and getting to know the people that are affected by this development with you, and it creates a kind of community. Average day, you hope, goes very well and kind of boring, to be honest. Especially in the brewery side, it's a lot of hurry up and wait. So once you set the beer up, you get your grain in the mash tun, and then you wait. Then you transfer your beer over your kettle, and you wait. You get to your boil, and then you wait. So you kind of hope that you have a little bit of time to be able to have some nice structured downtime, get some other work done, and move on. A lot of times what you'll find is you get random things that you didn't know, either an ingredient's not doing what you thought it would, or your equipment's not doing what you thought it would, or you get something going on and then you have to think on your feet, and you use the people around you to help you get through all of that. Just like any other business would, I imagine, but especially the fact that breweries are part industry, part art, it becomes very interesting because unlike a processing plant for meat or something like that, you don't have a set guideline of this kind of meat comes here. It's, well, this process has changed a little bit because of this, so how can we change our thinking and what we do for the rest of the process in order to create something that's unique and up to our quality and our standards. We like to kind of view ourselves as a host to a party. I don't think that a bartender should just be someone who just gives you a beer and walks away. Everyone likes talking to the people, so we kind of make sure that everyone back here are people that we'd like to have a conversation with. And when we're giving interviews, it's mostly a conversation, and would I like talking to this person? Would I like spending time with this person? And really create an environment that is comfortable to be in. If you two hadn't met each other before, and I'm talking to you, and then I'm talking to him, then maybe I'll introduce you two, and that way you can leave with a new friend. We get a lot of people who are exchanging business cards and trying to figure out ways that they can better themselves that way. So a tap room can be a lot more than just a place that you get a beer slung at you. It can be a place where you're doing business. It can be a place where you're meeting new friends. There's a lot that can happen community-wise in a place like this, which is why tap rooms are important and not just going straight into distribution. So a day in the yeast lab is a little bit more complex than I'm used to dealing with, but we have a person who's very good at it, very, very passionate about their job. Right now, they're propagating our yeast, which means we take our yeast, we give it a media that it likes to flourish in, it grows up, and then she communicates with our head brewer, and we make sure that the yeast is in a very healthy condition, has no contaminants, has no off flavors, and is doing exactly what we want it to do when it hits the beer. And that way the beer can turn out as best as it possibly can. She does a lot of really good work in making sure that every single time we pitch yeast, it's right where it needs to be, and we know exactly how it's going to develop. As we expand here, they're also going to be able to expand the lab capabilities to the point where once we're distributing, we're going to know that our beer is going to be the same from a batch one year to the other, unless we specifically want to make a change. So we're really excited to be able to get more and more capabilities and become a place where you know what you're getting. We've made at least 30 different types of beer. This eventually will become our experimental tap room, and we're basically just trying a bunch of things and seeing how Cookeville likes it. We'll usually produce 1 to 2 new beers a week if we can, and then make a batch of our tried and true beers like our Belgian Tripel, our Honey Blonde, or our West Coast IPA, the Hoppy Cock. Some of those that are fan favorites we go through so quickly that we need to produce as fast as possible, and especially with being a nano brewery at the moment, it's very important that we get on making what people are expecting us to have, as well as kind of flexing our creative muscle and seeing maybe you like this, or maybe tweaking a recipe and see maybe you like a little bit different dry hop, maybe people like an entirely different hop, and just kind of playing around with things. So for our seasonal beers, we feature things like the Krampus, which is a cranberry winter ale. That's got a lot of holiday spices in it, a higher alcohol content, some maltiness, and then the maltiness is kind of evened out by a little bit of cranberry. It comes out as very warm and lush beer. So we only release that during the winter. We also have the basic during the winter, which is a pumpkin spice beer with coffee stout added in. And so that was with the local pumpkins from the Yoder farm. That's the farm that's right next to Jim and Hippie Jack's. So we had them make pumpkins. They recommended cheese pumpkins. Really happy we went that way. They did a fantastic job growing that. We worked with Broast, their tri-roast blend there, added in kind of a medium light body coffeeness to it, and then our milk stout kind of gave a little bit of sweetness and a little bit of roastiness. They kind of melded those two things together. So you have the cheese pumpkin, which is a great pumpkin pie pumpkin, the coffee and the beer all coming together, and then we added a little bit of cinnamon and nutmeg for the spiciness of it. That was not locally sourced, unfortunately, but we're working on it. So yeah, we've got local pumpkins, local coffee, and foreign spices. And then upcoming in October, we're going to have our Marzen. We're going to be doing maybe a couple other different Oktoberfest beers, but the Marzen's the one we're really excited for. Maybe a Dunkelweizen at that point too. During the Eclipse, we had Total Eclipse of the Hop, which we were very happy to make. It was a very dark, well-hopped beer. Very, very popular at that moment, and we had a big bash that we had that for, and we were able to be outside and enjoy that beer as a once-in-a-lifetime kind of event was happening over here. I really like our coffee stout a whole lot. Working with Bros, they make a fantastic product. Our head brewer makes a fantastic product. Together it's sort of like an unnamed peanut butter chocolate cup that two great flavors coming together, and it really works well. We also got to do a seasonal version of that we call the Basic, where we also added cheese pumpkins that really brought an extra layer to it. And so the fact that we get to work with people that we really like to work with and talk to them, and then we get a product that we love to drink afterwards, it's really very exciting. So I think it's half of it is just the flavor of it being roasty and complex, and it brings a lot to the table there, but then also just knowing that we're getting to be part of these other people's art form is really, really cool. So each beer is going to be a little bit different. In general, some things are going to stay the same. Basically, beer is sugar water that you introduce yeast to. The yeast eats the sugar and produces alcohol. That's about the only consistent thing. Otherwise, it's what you add for your bittering agents what kind of sugar are you producing. So even things like changing the heat when you're extracting the sugar can determine, is your beer going to be drier or sweeter. The type of grain that you use is going to change the flavor. Then you get into hop additions, or if you have a brew it, you don't even have hops, you might have other botanicals. So there's a lot of differences there. The basic process is extracting sugar from the grain that's creating wort. You then transfer that wort into a kettle and start boiling. Unless you're making a kettle sour, which you don't, but. So you start boiling. Then you have a hop schedule, and if we're making our honey blonde, the roll in the hay honey blonde, we'll also add honey at that point. If we're making one of our winter beers especially, that includes spices like our Krampus Winter Ale, then that's when you would also add your spices. The longer you leave something in, just like if you're making tea at home, the more bitter it's going to get. So that's also part of where the artistry comes. I can tell you exactly what we're putting in the beer, but it's the quantities and the time that we put it into the boil will change it drastically. So even if you knew exactly what I was using, you would come up with a completely different beer than I have, just based on when you're adding and how much you're adding. So at that point, we've boiled the beer, we've added what we're going to into the boiling wort. It's still not really beer. It comes through a heat exchanger and cools it down so it won't kill off the yeast. The yeast is another super important part. If you have the exact same beer and you change the yeast, you'll have a completely different flavor by the end of it. A Hefeweizen yeast will come out as banana and clovey, whereas a champagne yeast, if you're making a cider, will be very, very dry, and you'll get very little of the sugars that you extracted because the yeast really works to bring it out. Depending on what you want, you have to put a lot of thought into what yeast you use, and again, how much yeast. If you use too much, you might get a fusel taste, which some people want. You want that kind of warm alcohol. Other beers you don't want so much. You would like a smoother experience. So those are all decisions that have to be made, but once you have the yeast in the fermenter, you're going to let it in there for about a week to ferment, and then it takes about 2 weeks to a month in order for it to settle down, for the flavors to develop. We test a lot of beer at that stages, and you kind of know, okay, this is sweeter than it's going to be. It's under attenuated, but it's going along the path that I want to see. You make sure that you don't have any off flavors. If you have an off flavor, how do you fix that off flavor? How do you make it into something that you want to see? Do you just pour out the whole batch, or can you modify it in some way, to your standards? So the process there is very different, but in general, you're letting it wait. If you have an ale, you're going to let it wait while it's warm, and it's a shorter time. If you have a lager, you're going to let it wait at a colder temperature for a longer time. And then at the end of that, you transfer it into what's called a bright tank. You pressurize it, you put it into a keg, and then you get to drink it. The actual brewing process can take anywhere from 14 days to a month. I know of a few beers just around here that took over a month and a half, and that's before we even get to barrel aging, where you then get a barrel from one of the local distilleries that's popping up, and then you put your beer in there, and you might wait for 6 months. Well, we've started off as a nano brewery. It's a 2-barrel brewery, and a nano brewery is considered anything that's 3 barrels or less. So we're starting off very, very small. Basically, this might even be what a very dedicated home brewer might have. You would have to have a lot of parties for it, but it's that kind of a process. We're lucky enough right now that we're able to expand into a microbrewery, into a 15-barrel system, which will put us into a pretty large category for this area, but we're still quite small, especially compared to Nashville or many other microbreweries around. What this will allow us to do is go from only serving in our tap room and select restaurants around this city into being able to start pushing our beers into different markets all around, most notably Nashville, Knoxville, and Chattanooga. We're hoping to expand our outside into a more event-heavy venue where we have not only music, but also we would offer a stage for local students to have more of a voice doing their art beyond the places at Tech and the CPAC. Not that they're doing a bad job at all. They have fantastic things, but there are only so many stages in Cookeville, and if we can add one more to it and give voice to more people, we think that would be really good. We're also in talks with some of the outdoor enthusiasts to give kind of TED Talk-like seminars where they have a way of talking to other people who are interested in biking paths and hiking paths and climbing areas and stuff like that. We get a lot of outdoor enthusiasts coming through here because of our location near the highway and how close we are to so many great parks. And we're open 7 days a week, so it already kind of becomes a natural meeting place, and we think if we can give more of a credence to that, that kind of helps the community as well. And that's a very important thing, is not only doing things to try to get people into your doors so that you can function as a business, but also how can we do that in a way that gives the community more of a voice, allows the community to express itself, and really just to be a vehicle for creative thought and a way for people to meet each other and better themselves through that. In the tap room, we also try to keep it local. We've got tap handles made out of woodworking tools. The bar top came from right outside of Chattanooga. The beam of light that we have here actually came from a 250-year-old barn in Smithville, and everything on the walls came from the farm itself. So we try to incorporate a little bit of Tennessee right here inside the tap room itself.